Take a look at this formation. Here we have a standard 4-4-2 shape with a back line of 4 defenders, the wingers tucked into the half spaces, and the 2 strikers up front. But what if I told you that the strikers are actually the center-backs? The wingers, well, these are actually the fullbacks, and instead of a back line, what you are actually looking at is a front line of 4 attackers. So if we turn this around, then instead of a 4-4-2, what we have is an unusual 2-4-4 formation. This is the crazy tactic of Vincent Kompany, a formation with only 2 primary defenders. A system developed specifically for bombarding the opponent with an onslaught of relentless attacks. And by using this tactic, Bayern became the top scorers in Europe while also keeping the opposition trapped in their halves. So what exactly is this 2-4-4 shape? And how is Kompany using this system to produce outrageous scorelines such as these? Let's find out in this video. So far, one of the main things that has stood out about Kompany's Bayern is their ability to keep the ball in the opposition's half for extended periods. This is due to the team's build-up shape and advanced starting positions. For instance, Bayern usually begins in a 4-2-3-1 shape, but when playing against teams who sit deep, rather than trying to invite the opponents to press, Kompany pushes his team to the center of the pitch. From this advanced position, the fullbacks will move into the half spaces in midfield, and weirdly, the center-backs will adapt wider roles to fill the gap left by the advancing fullbacks, and the remaining attackers then shift to form a front line of 4. This creates Kompany's unusual 2-4-4 formation. This shape not only creates a box in the build-up with the pivots acting as support, but it also forces the opposition to stretch their defensive shape to close down Bayern's attackers, which indirectly opens more passing lanes for Bayern to progress the ball into the midfielders. And if the opposition decides to maintain their compact defensive structure, then positioning the fullbacks in the half spaces creates a wall around the opposition which traps them in their defensive third. This means that even if they were to regain possession in these areas, Kompany's men are already positioned in the optimal position to launch a counter-press. But the Bundesliga is known for being one of the most press-intensive leagues, and if the opposition is brave and decides to push numbers forward, then the distance between the center-backs could make it difficult to switch the point of attack without losing possession. So in this case, the goalkeeper will advance between the center-backs to form a back 3. This restores the numerical advantage and provides more passing lanes for easy ball progression into midfield. So even in the opposition press with a front 4, the team still has the superiority in the build-up and can easily progress the ball through the press. But if the opposition were to press with more numbers, then you might see the fullbacks drop slightly to receive a pass in the half spaces. However, in cases where the keeper is not able to step up due to the opposition press, then Kompany will abandon the high build-up altogether, and instead drop his center-backs beside the keeper, while also dropping both the striker and number 10 in this deep area to create a central overload in the build-up. This ensures that the team has multiple passing lanes to play through the press effectively and forces the opposition to make a difficult decision. If they maintain their back line, then Bayern can use the overload to easily play out centrally as they will have the numerical advantage. However, if they try to press the striker and the attacking midfielder, it creates the opportunity for 1 versus 1 scenarios with direct passes into the wingers. So the 2-4-4 has provided Kompany with a new way of evading the opposition's press, but Kompany places flexibility above all, so when the team transitions into the second phase this shape can quickly morph into a 2-5-3 or a 3-2-5. For instance, if the opposition decides to man-mark Bayern's pivots, then this pressure can cause defensive errors and lead to turnovers. To counter this, Kompany grants his striker and his number 10 the freedom to roam into areas of the pitch that the opposition would not normally expect them to roam. This allows them to provide a +1 advantage in various scenarios across the pitch. So in cases where the pivots are being man-marked, you will often see the attacking midfielder roaming deep in midfield to help with the build-up. This changes the team shape to a 2-5-3 formation and provides Bayern with a 3 versus 2 superiority in the center, which helps to relieve pressure from the pivots. And if the opposition decides to track his movement, then it creates a huge gap between their defensive lines which can be exploited with long passes. But Musiala is also one of the best dribblers in world football and can dribble past multiple markers with ease, meaning that he now has acres of space to punish the opposition. Another way that Kompany avoids the opposition closing the center is to drop one of the pivots to form a back three. The other pivot will then shift to the opposite side to allow Musiala to drop into the vacated space while the fullbacks will push forward to form a 3-2-5 shape. From these positions, the wingers will hold the width to free up space for the fullbacks to join the attack and provide an overload against the opposition's back line. Speaking about wingers, they play a key role in Kompany's system as he likes to create numerical overloads on the flanks. For instance, when the team is attacking, it is common to see a direct pass to one of the wingers where the roaming players, the ball-sided fullback, and one of the midfielders will drift wide to form these clusters on the flanks. Due to the numerical advantage that these clusters provide, the opposition is forced to deploy more players to close down Bayern's attackers, which creates space for a switch in play on the opposite wing. These clusters also mean that Bayern can use quick short passes to bypass the opposition and transition into the final third. And if the team loses the ball in these areas, then all players in the cluster immediately squeeze the opposition to close these gaps, causing high turnovers. Once the team moves into the attack, the main objective is to overload the opposition box with as many attackers as possible. Here the team will once again change their shape into a 2-3-5, where the wingers or fullbacks will maintain width to stretch the back line. This opens up space between the defenders for the fullbacks to make incisive runs in these half spaces before providing deadly cutbacks across the goal. Alternatively, the wingers can use the runs of the fullbacks as decoys to dribble infield or make deadly passes into the danger zone. From here the attacker has the freedom to use any method possible to create opportunities. This zone in particular is proving to be an effective area of the pitch that Kompany is exploiting to create deadly chances. Because while other managers like to invert their fullbacks in midfield, Kompany likes to use his fullbacks out wide. This gives freedom to the wingers to either overlap, or make inverted runs into these areas. Alternatively, you may see the striker and number 10 drifting into this zone, which attracts defenders and frees up space for the wide players to make diagonal runs in the box. So far this zone has led to several goal-scoring opportunities for Bayern this season. Kompany uses a man-to-man marking system where every player has a designated target that they need to track. This system can be effective for applying pressure to the opponents as it makes it difficult for the opposition to find open players, but it can also be a double-edged sword. When defending man-to-man, the players must be good at defending 1-versus-1 situations, because if they are not and the opposition players win their duels and get past their marker, another player has to shift their focus from their target, and the entire defensive structure collapses. Also, a few teams have used Bayern's close man-to-man orientated press against them to get into goal-scoring opportunities. For example, you will sometimes see the opposition using his movements as a decoy to draw Bayern defenders away from the intended point of attack, which opens up space for the ball to be progressed through these channels. So to tackle this, Kompany implemented a system known as distance marking, where instead of sticking close to their target, the defenders will engage the opposition based on how close they are to the ball. So if the ball is being played in the opposition's defensive third, then the players involved in their build-up will be closely marked by Bayern's attackers, while players further from the action keep their distance. This allows them to read the game effectively and gives them time to react if the defense is pressured. And if the opposition is slow and indecisive in the attack, then every time they make a sideward or backward pass, the team will push as a unit to squeeze the pitch, forcing the opposition to retreat into their half. This makes Bayern very hard to break down by slow-paced football, so oppositions are forced to go from back to front quickly to create opportunities. This can cause opposition who are not drilled in this fashion to make mistakes. However, Against teams who are used to going from defense to attack in seconds, Bayern has displayed weakness. This is highlighted by the amount of goals they have conceded on the counterattack so far under Kompany's guidance. The main weakness in the system comes from their 2-4-4 shape. While having more players in advanced positions can be effective for creating overloads and controlling the game, it means that if teams can break through Bayern's counterpress, or leave one free player outside of the defensive block, then they can hurt the team on the counterattack. Especially if these players are quick on their feet and are good in 1-versus-1 scenarios. Kompany has tried to mitigate this risk by using Neuer as a sweeper keeper, but in some cases it will not be possible for the keeper to step off his line, and he will need to find a new solution for this problem, as the team has been conceding goals as a result of this weakness.
And that's the tactical story behind Bayern Munich's Champions League campaign. From their vertical passing lanes to their aggressive high line and fluid midfield rotations, Bayern continue to blend German precision with attacking flair. If you enjoyed this breakdown, give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more elite tactical content, and let me know in the comments which Bayern move impressed you most, and who should we analyze next. Thanks for watching, and remember, tactics aren't just numbers on a board, they're the heartbeat of the game.